This film was so fascinating. I couldn't take my eyes off the screen. Did you two meet before filming began?
We did. Matt was very generous with his time, and we met in New York and had our initial meeting was the most concentrated version of our kind of getting to know each other, and me studying him and making him feel very uncomfortable. But yeah, no, he was great. He told me all about his work, and it's when I started to get to know him.
Yeah, it was a really fun meeting. We went out for supper in New York, and he was asking a lot of different things, a lot of simple stuff like how do you pronounce horror, and going through that, and then we're having this really nice conversation talking about wives and family and work, and all of a sudden I see him like looking at me sort of like this, and I'm going like this, and but he's trying to pick up little nuances, and it was really cool. It was really interesting to see how he worked. So,
if I might add too, I think one thing that we've learned as actors is that investigative journalists don't like to be questioned because they're the ones that are always asking the questions. So when the tables are turned, I think it's an interesting interesting thing.
It's a lot easier to ask questions rather than answer questions.
So true. In the film, it seems that the Globe has mostly turned a blind eye to this subject matter until the new editor comes along and says, I want to focus on this. Is that an accurate portrayal of how it happened?
It was, pretty much. I mean, I think it was one of those topics that kind of became wallpaper, basically, after a while, and you just kind of ignored it because it had been that way forever, and you don't really think about it. Then Marty comes in, and he is an outsider, and he says, let's go deep on this, and then we start then you realize how pervasive and how bad the problem had been for decades and decades. So, but it took an outsider to come in to sort of drive that point home.
Brian, how familiar were you with the story?
I was familiar with the outcome of the story. I didn't realize that the Globe had broken the story. I knew what was happening in Boston, and of course that was made international news. So I think probably, like many, received the information in a very general way. And it wasn't until I started, working on this script that I realized that it was in fact the Boston Globe. I'd never heard of the Spotlight column or the team, and so for me it was an education about that aspect of the story.
Was there anything when it came to light that shocked you more than anything?
The size of it. I mean, that was brought home pretty much in the movie. I think everyone knew that there were bad priests. I mean, it's bad people everywhere. But the idea that there were so many priests and it had been covered up for so long. And I think what really was startling to us was the cover-up aspect. So you have a guy like Father Gagan who would abuse kids at St. Julia's Parish, and then he'd be transferred to another parish, and the Monsignor of the new parish wouldn't be alerted to the fact that this guy had been abusing kids, so the new Monsignor would say, okay, why don't you take over kids' programs? And it was just jaw-droppingly horrifying to realize that that was going on.
Yeah. Brian, what was the most challenging part about playing a real-life person?
Well, just wanting to get it right and wanting to, to honor him as a person and, make him feel like, what I was doing as an actor was, I can quit now. That's all I need. But, there's a great responsibility in wanting, especially someone you admire and that I've come to know and really, really respect, that, you want to do a good job from the beginning. But, when you're portraying someone who's a real live person, you want to do it right.
And Matt, what was the best thing that came about as a result of these articles being published in Spotlight?
I mean, the people the survivors would come to us and with literally tears in their eyes and say, thank you so much for telling our story. No one believed us. And they'd be telling their parents, they'd be telling police, they'd be telling other priests. People just wouldn't believe it that priests could be doing things like this. And the fact that they were so gratified to have their stories told, it was really a humbling experience for us and a really nice experience.
What can we see you in next? What projects do you have lined up?
I'm on Broadway in a show called Something Rotten, a big fat musical comedy hit. So the two things couldn't be further away from each other in terms of tone. But we're having a great time in New York City doing Something Rotten.
Thank you so much for this powerful film. Thank both of you, and I hope a lot of people see it because it's a real eye-opener.
Thank you very much. We appreciate that.